everyone. I just want to start by saying I'm so thankful for this opportunity to share what I have worked on for the past year. During my presentation, I will provide some background information on Indiana. I'll provide some regional statistics. I'll introduce you to my ARP. I'll talk about what I learned, next steps, and some feedback that I received from my agency regarding my project. I'd like to start with some disproportionality statistics within the state of Indiana. This table shows one way to view the extent to which disproportionality exists among populations. This table provides a racial disproportionality index, or an RDI. An RDI compares the percentage of children by race in the general population to their percentage at various points in the child welfare continuum. So an RDI higher than 1.0 indicates the group is overrepresented. As you can see, African American or Black children were overrepresented in the Indiana foster care system, and these statistics are as of 2018. Let's take a closer look at the region in which I serve. So I work out of Vanderburgh County, which is in Region 16 here in Indiana. Region 16 consists of southern counties of Indiana and includes Boonville, Indiana, Evansville, Indiana, Mount Vernon, Indiana, Petersburg, Indiana, Princeton, Indiana, and Vincennes, Indiana. So I focus my research on my region, and it is the primary region that I serve. So let's take a closer look at the numbers. So as of September 2020, we had 1,264 children in care. If we do the math, we had over 400 children of color and only 11 families of color who look like these children. Seeing these numbers truly deepen my passion for foster parent recruitment and retention. So this is the question I've aimed to answer. If individuals responsible for recruitment and retention initiatives receive information about best, effective, or promising practices for recruiting and retaining individuals from communities of color, will it increase and improve planning and actual recruitment and retention efforts in those communities, with the ultimate goal of reducing disproportionality of children in color? So let's talk a little bit about what I learned in my literature review. So for successful recruitment, messaging and branding are important, and communicating a positive message to potential foster parents is key. Likewise, communication is also important for retention, as engagement is important to retain our foster parents. Engagement helps us build relationships. Furthermore, relationships are important to both recruitment and retention as well. Current foster parents are able to relate and provide real life examples and stories when discussing their experiences as a foster parent with our prospective foster parents. This, this also allows a chance for peer and emotional support between foster parents as well. So I plan to talk a little further later about how we can use the relationships we've built with our foster parents and really utilize them as a means for recruiting new foster parents. As we can see, there are different actions needed for both successful recruitment and retention, but there are also commonalities. Again, communication, relationships, they're both key in both retention and recruitment. So lastly, we must remember that retention is also recruitment. When we are nurturing in our relationships with our foster parents, they become more willing to assist us in our recruitment and retention efforts. So during my project, I interviewed many foster parents within my region to learn more about recruitment and retention from the perspective of our foster parents. So let's take a look at the demographics of my respondents. Most were white or Caucasian. Most had a college degree. All of my respondents spoke English, and most were female. Most of my respondents were married, and most of my respondents were between ages 55 through 64. In this part of my presentation, I'd like to start talking a little bit more about recruitment. Denise Goodman is a public servant who has extensive work in foster parent recruitment and retention. In an article I found within my research, I found an article where Denise was asked, there is a disproportionate number of African American children in the foster care system. How are these issues playing out with foster parent recruitment? Denise said, we really need a pool of foster parents that reflect our children in care. Federal law, the Multi Ethnic Placement Act, or NEPA, kind of mandates us to do it. We still haven't gotten there for a number of reasons. One being that historically, communities of color have not been treated well by child welfare. They recognize that their children are taken at a higher rate. They recognize that their children aren't getting permanency at the same rate as other children. And we just aren't respectful and sensitive in dealing with those communities. I think part of it is we haven't worked to build up relationships and we haven't listened to them when they've talked to us. So now let's talk about what I learned from my foster parents about recruitment. I wanted to know how many foster parents were recruited through active recruitment events. None of my respondents had been recruited through a recruitment event. Most of my respondents had spoke out to the agency on their own and made an inquiry that way. I wanted to know what influenced the decision to become a foster parent. Many of them stated the need of foster parents was what influenced them to become foster parents. This is important to note because none of my respondents were directly recruited through a foster parent recruitment event. So the message was there somewhere that there was a great need of foster parents in Indiana. Many of my foster parents talked about being influenced by their parents or family members to become foster parents. So I'll talk a little bit later again about how we can use this as a unique opportunity for recruitment of foster parents and how we can use our current foster parents to recruit um, new foster parents. So let's lead me to my next question. I wanted to know if my respondents have told or invited others to become foster parents. 26 out of 27 of my respondents had invited others to become foster parents. Clearly, we can see word of mouth um, is a foster parent recruitment act in itself. For my project, I had an idea to develop an initiative. The initiative is entitled Each One, Reach One. This initiative will be used in where we ask each foster family we have in our pool to provide us with at least one family or friend or whoever it may be that they think may be interested in becoming a foster parent. I assume that many families will have more than one family or person that may be interested in becoming a foster parent. So I believe that this will enhance our pool greatly. I wanted to know when discussing about becoming a foster parent, what did they tell others? Most told others that being a foster parent led to fulfillment and feelings of gladness, but they also spoke in a very real way in maintaining that the feelings that you have as a foster parent won't always be positive. Um, all of your days won't be easy. Now let's take a look at what I learned about retention from my respondents. I wanted to know what parts of foster parenting my respondents enjoyed. Most stated that they enjoyed watching kids grow and the bonds that they grow with their placements, and others talked about they enjoy helping those in need. I wanted to know what influences our foster parents to continue being foster parents. Again, foster parents identified the need for being for foster parents in our state, and others identified foster parent as being a foster parent as being a part of their ministry, and they feel that this is something that God has led them to do within their life purpose. In contrast, I wanted to know what parts of being a foster parent my respondents didn't enjoy. So many felt that communication within our state agency isn't always there. Some wish they had more information regarding their placements that they receive. And one mentioned not receiving reprieve or a break or respite while they're handling the children and their behaviors. I question if there are training needs our foster parents have. Most respondents had no additional suggestions for additional trainings. They felt that they were well prepared in the licensing process, but many respondents did indicate the need for training on trauma to be offered prior to becoming licensed versus after becoming licensed. Many foster parents um, informed me that they did not receive training on trauma until after becoming licensed. And a lot of times they were underprepared on how to address behaviors around trauma. Many of my respondents did report to feeling thankful for increased training opportunities while being able to work from home due to COVID and the increased accessibility of virtual trainings. I wanted to know if our foster parents had any barriers to becoming licensed, for example, completing medical forms, communication with their licensing worker, if they needed a waiver from their background checks, etc. Many of my respondents reported childcare being an issue and a barrier. They needed childcare during the times whenever they were in their classes and childcare isn't provided. So this was a barrier for them. Um, Another barrier many of my respondents brought forth was that many times they've had trainings that they needed to complete, but these trainings were offered hours away and weren't in their home region or area. So many times my respondents had to travel over 2 hours um, just to be able to complete their training. I wanted to know as well if my respondents have fostered children of other races or ethnicities different from their own. Most of my respondents were fostering children of a different race or ethnicity at that time, and all of my respondents reported feeling comfortable parenting children of a different race or ethnicity. So, based on what I learned, I developed some recommendations and next steps to present to my agency management and stakeholders about recruitment and retention. So, again, I recommend enlisting our foster parents and foster youth as a way to help recruit new foster parents through the Each One Reach One initiative. Through this initiative, we really get an opportunity to build mentors and peer supports from um, our current foster parents. As I stated earlier, many foster parents also spoke about how foster parent is a part of their ministry. And I recommend we build our faith based partnerships as a way for furthering our recruitment initiatives. Many faith based organizations value helping others, and leaders of these organizations are many times well respected in their communities and can be a driving force for influencing others. For many of the African American community, religion is an important part of our lives. So the approach of developing these faith-based partnerships can be highly rendering for recruitment within communities of color. Through these partnerships, we can also identify community liaisons to assist us in our efforts. I recommend providing foster parents means of providing ongoing feedback to state agencies and maintaining an open line of communication. We know that communication is key, again, from both sides. I recommend the development for child care plans for prospective foster parents being developed prior to the licensing process so that child care isn't an issue within the licensing process. I also recommend establishing branding and messaging materials to further efforts of recruitment. Messaging and branding should be the first acts of recruitment. Positive messaging and branding can improve the distorted image many have of our child welfare system. Again, as I stated previously, 26 out of 27 of my respondents reported they have talked to others um, about becoming foster parents, and word of mouth can truly be the biggest form of recruitment. Again, I recommend utilizing the Each One Reach One initiatives. The positive thing about this initiative is that it can be tweaked. We can use this within organizations or whoever we may have a partnership with. we can utilize this for those leaders to actively recruit and ultimately retain our foster parents as well. So I also presented my research findings to my regional foster care team, our management team, and a regional adoption team between the months of October and November 2020. So these presentations really allowed for valuable discussion and further thoughts into recruitment and retention. Each audience really receptive to the recommendations and next steps. So from the presentations, we really looked at not only what does representation within our foster parent pool look like, but also what does our representation look like within our workers and our staff members. And then it kind of also went into discussion of what does our recruitment and retention efforts look like for our CASA volunteers. Many times I have obtained a case and the representation isn't there within their pool as well. So we looked at, when looking at the Each One Reach One initiative, what if there are people that aren't willing to be a foster parent and want to help out in another capacity? So we talked about maybe looking into a partnership with CASA. So those who don't want to be in the pool of becoming a foster parent, what would it look like if they became a CASA volunteer or even in the pool of adoptive parents? So from my presentation, we also looked into developing a Region 16 adoption team partnership. They also spoke about how they want to increase their adoptive parents of color within the region. And then other representatives from other regions have also talked about partnering and increasing their recruitment and retention efforts of foster parents of color in other regions. So the Each One Reach One initiative right now is still in progress. We're looking at ways of how we can effectively implement this initiative at this time. NPLD has been truly an amazing time for me. It's given me chance after chance for reflection as who I want to be as a leader and as a person. I came into this program very shy and quiet. I think it took some time for me to kind of um, open up and become more confident. I think so many times I was just shell shocked um, by the expertise that Sharon Lynn and Arlene provided me. And once I got over that hump, I think that's really where I increased in my confidence. Through this program, I have met so many great people and just people that have really taken me under their wing, and I am forever indebted to this program for that. Um, this program has truly been unmatched, and this has been an experience that I have never had the chance to ever be a part of. Um, Being in the kickoff, I think that was just such an amazing feeling. Being in the room with so many amazing, hardworking people is truly something that I will never forget. I'm really sad to see this being at the end, but it has truly been a blessing to my life, something that I will forever um, cherish.